Have you ever walked into a room full of people and somehow still felt completely alone? You may smile, participate in conversations, laugh at the right moments, and appear perfectly comfortable, yet somewhere inside, there is a quiet feeling that says, "I don't really belong here." It is a strange experience because nothing may seem obviously wrong. You might have friends, family, responsibilities, dreams, and a life that looks normal from the outside, but internally you feel disconnected, as if you are standing slightly outside your own life and watching everyone else fit naturally into theirs. Sometimes this feeling comes from being surrounded by people who understand only a small part of you. You may have learned to adjust your personality, hide certain thoughts, or remain silent about the things that matter most because you fear being misunderstood. Over time, constantly adapting can make you question which version of yourself is actually real. And the more you try to fit into places that were never designed for who you are becoming, the stronger that feeling of not belonging can become. But perhaps the problem is not that there is something wrong with you. Perhaps you have simply been measuring your belonging by the wrong standard. Maybe belonging was never supposed to mean becoming similar to everyone around you. Maybe it means finding spaces where you no longer have to shrink, perform, or explain every part of yourself just to be accepted. Sometimes the loneliest period of life is not a sign that you have been forgotten, it is the space between an old identity and a new one. And during that space, you may feel like you belong nowhere because you are slowly becoming someone who can no longer comfortably return to where you once fit. Sometimes the feeling of not belonging does not begin with other people. It begins quietly within you. You start noticing that the things that once excited you no longer feel meaningful, the conversations you once enjoyed suddenly feel empty, and the routines you once accepted begin to feel strangely distant. Nothing dramatic has necessarily happened, yet something inside you has changed. You may still be living the same life, surrounded by the same people, walking through the same places, but internally, you are no longer the same person. This can create a confusing kind of loneliness because you cannot easily explain what is missing. You might even feel guilty for feeling disconnected when, technically, you have nothing to complain about. But emotions do not always follow logic. Sometimes your inner world changes before your outer life has had a chance to catch up. You begin questioning choices you once made without hesitation, relationships you once accepted without thinking, and dreams you once believed were truly yours. You start realizing that some of the things you were chasing may have been expectations you inherited rather than desires you genuinely chose. And when your inner values begin changing, familiar environments can suddenly feel unfamiliar. This is why you may feel like an outsider even in places where everyone knows your name. You are physically present, but emotionally, you are searching for something deeper, something that feels honest, meaningful, and truly yours. The discomfort can be difficult, but it may also be the beginning of a more authentic life. One of the deepest reasons people feel like they do not belong is the quiet desire to be truly understood. Not simply heard, not politely accepted, but understood without having to constantly explain who they are. You may have people around you who know your name, your habits, your sense of humor, and even your history, yet still feel as though nobody really sees what is happening inside you. You learn to keep certain thoughts private because explaining them feels exhausting. You stop sharing your deeper ideas because previous attempts were misunderstood or dismissed. Eventually, you become skilled at showing people only the parts of yourself that feel safe. You laugh when you are expected to laugh, remain quiet when speaking honestly might create conflict, and slowly build a version of yourself that everyone can understand. But there is a hidden cost to constantly making yourself easier for others to accept. You begin feeling invisible. People may know the version of you that you created for them, while the real you remains somewhere behind the curtain. This can create an unusual loneliness, because even when you are surrounded by people, you may still feel emotionally untouched by them. And perhaps what you truly need is not more people, but more honesty. The moment you stop believing that everyone must understand you, something changes. You begin allowing yourself to exist without constant explanation, and you realize that being misunderstood by some people does not mean you are impossible to understand. It simply means not everyone has the depth, patience, or perspective to see every part of you. There comes a point in life when you begin noticing that your environment no longer reflects the person you are becoming. The same conversations feel repetitive, the same habits feel restrictive, and even familiar places can carry a strange sense of emptiness. You may look around and wonder why everything feels different when nothing around you has actually changed. The answer may be that you have changed. Growth does not always announce itself with a dramatic transformation. Sometimes it appears as a quiet discomfort with what you once considered normal. You begin wanting deeper conversations, more meaningful connections, greater freedom, or simply a life that feels more aligned with your inner values. But when the people around you are still comfortable with the old version of you, your growth can make you feel like an outsider. They may wonder why you have become distant, serious, ambitious, or selective, while you are simply trying to understand the person you are becoming. This is where many people make the mistake of forcing themselves backward just to feel accepted again. They return to old behaviors, old conversations, and old expectations because familiarity feels safer than uncertainty. But belonging should not require you to betray your own growth. Sometimes feeling out of place is simply evidence that you have reached the edge of an old chapter. The unfamiliar space ahead may feel lonely at first, but it can also become the place where you finally meet people, ideas, and experiences that resonate with who you truly are. Sometimes you feel like you do not belong because you have spent so much of your life becoming whoever other people needed you to be. You learned when to stay quiet, when to agree, when to smile, when to compromise, and when to hide the parts of yourself that might make others uncomfortable. At first, this may have felt like maturity. You believed that keeping everyone happy meant you were doing the right thing. But over time, something subtle happens. You become so familiar with adapting that you stop knowing what you actually want. You enter different rooms and automatically become different versions of yourself. Around one person, you are quiet, around another, you are energetic, around someone else, you carefully choose every word. None of these versions may be completely fake, but constantly adjusting yourself can leave you emotionally exhausted. And when you finally return to yourself, you may wonder who that person even is anymore. This is one reason belonging can feel so difficult. You are searching for a place where you can finally relax, while your mind has been trained to constantly monitor how others perceive you. True belonging begins when you no longer feel responsible for becoming acceptable to everyone. It does not mean becoming selfish or ignoring others. It means allowing yourself to have preferences, boundaries, opinions, dreams, and imperfections without immediately changing them because someone else might not approve. The more honestly you live, the more clearly you discover which connections are genuine and which ones depended on your constant performance. And perhaps the greatest relief comes when you realize that you were never supposed to fit everywhere. Being different can feel frightening when you have spent years watching people seek approval from the same sources. You notice how easily people follow familiar paths, repeat familiar opinions, and choose what feels socially acceptable, while something inside you keeps asking different questions. You may have interests that others do not understand, ambitions that seem unrealistic to them, or a way of thinking that makes you feel several steps removed from the conversations happening around you. Instead of embracing that difference, you may begin questioning yourself. Maybe I am too complicated. Maybe I think too much. Maybe I should become more like everyone else. Slowly, you start treating your uniqueness as a problem that needs to be corrected. But being different does not automatically mean being disconnected. Sometimes it simply means your mind does not find meaning in the same places as everyone around you. The danger begins when you sacrifice your individuality just to experience temporary acceptance. You may gain approval, but lose the sense of being yourself. And there is a particular kind of loneliness that comes from being accepted for a version of yourself that you created rather than the person you truly are. Real connection becomes possible when you stop treating your differences as weaknesses. The people meant to remain in your life will not require you to erase yourself before they can understand you. They may not agree with everything about you, but they will give you room to exist honestly. And once you stop fearing your differences, the feeling of being an outsider can slowly transform into something else, the freedom of finally knowing who you are. There is a difference between being alone and feeling lonely, and sometimes the people who feel like they do not belong anywhere are actually being taught how to become comfortable with their own presence. In the beginning, solitude can feel uncomfortable because silence removes the distractions that usually keep your mind occupied. Without constant conversations, notifications, or people around you, thoughts that you avoided during the day suddenly become impossible to ignore. You begin hearing your own questions more clearly. What do I really want? What makes me feel alive? Which parts of my life are mine, and which parts were chosen for me? At first, these questions can feel overwhelming, but slowly, solitude begins to reveal something important. You discover that you do not always need someone else to validate your feelings, decisions, or existence. You start enjoying your own company, not because you have given up on people, but because you are no longer afraid of being alone. This changes the way you connect with others. You stop desperately searching for someone to fill an emotional emptiness and begin choosing relationships because they genuinely add something meaningful to your life. You become less willing to remain in places where you have to constantly prove your worth. Solitude teaches you that being alone is not automatically a punishment. Sometimes it is where your identity becomes clearer. And when you become comfortable with yourself, the fear of not belonging begins to lose its power, because you realize that your sense of belonging does not have to depend entirely on who chooses to stay. Eventually, you may discover that belonging is not about finding a crowd that looks exactly like you. It is about finding people around whom you do not feel the need to constantly protect, edit, or perform yourself. With the right people, silence does not feel awkward, differences do not become threats, and your thoughts do not have to be perfectly explained before they are respected. You can speak honestly without wondering whether one imperfect sentence will change how they see you. You can have a difficult day without pretending everything is fine. You can grow, change your mind, make mistakes, and become someone new without feeling that you are disappointing everyone around you. These connections may be rare, but their rarity is part of what makes them meaningful. Sometimes we spend years trying to convince the wrong people to understand us, when there are people somewhere who would never have required such convincing in the first place. The important thing is not to chase these connections desperately. Build a life where authenticity comes first, and let genuine relationships grow naturally within it. When you stop forcing yourself into spaces that constantly make you question your worth, you create room for healthier connections to enter. And one day, perhaps without even realizing when it happened, you may sit beside someone and notice that you are completely relaxed. No performance. No pretending. No fear of being judged. Just peace. That moment can teach you something powerful. Maybe you were never incapable of belonging. Maybe you were simply searching for belonging in places where you were never meant to stay. For a long time, you may have believed that something was wrong with you because you could never completely fit into certain places, friendships, or environments. You watched other people seem comfortable while you constantly questioned whether you were saying the right things, acting the right way, or becoming the person everyone expected you to be. But perhaps life was never asking you to fit everywhere. Perhaps some places were only meant to teach you something before you moved forward. Not every friendship will understand your growth. Not every environment will appreciate your nature. Not every person will recognize the depth behind your silence. And that does not automatically mean you are difficult, strange, or impossible to love. Sometimes compatibility simply does not exist, and forcing it only creates a deeper sense of loneliness. You can spend years trying to earn acceptance from people who were never capable of giving you the kind of connection you needed. But there comes a moment when you stop asking, "How can I make them accept me?" and begin asking, "Why am I trying so hard to belong here?" That question can change everything. You begin understanding that belonging should not require the destruction of your identity. The right spaces will not demand that you become smaller just to make others comfortable. They will give you room to grow without making you feel guilty for changing. And when you finally accept that you were never meant to fit everywhere, rejection becomes less frightening. You stop seeing every closed door as proof that you are unwanted and start seeing some of them as protection from places that could never truly hold the person you are becoming. Perhaps the deepest form of belonging is not finding the perfect group, relationship, or place. Perhaps it is reaching a point where you finally feel at home within yourself. After years of searching for acceptance, you begin realizing that no external connection can permanently replace the relationship you have with your own identity. When you understand yourself, respect your boundaries, accept your imperfections, and stop abandoning your values for approval, something inside you becomes quieter. You no longer feel desperate to prove that you deserve a place in someone else's world. You can walk away from situations that do not feel right without believing that leaving means you have failed. You can be misunderstood without immediately questioning your entire identity. You can be alone without assuming that you are unwanted. And most importantly, you can enter new spaces without carrying the old fear that you must change yourself to be accepted. This does not mean you will never feel lonely again. You will. There will still be moments when you wish someone understood you more deeply, when a familiar place feels distant, or when you question where you truly belong. But you will no longer see those moments as evidence that something is wrong with you. You will understand them as part of being human. Because sometimes belonging is not about finally finding a place where everyone understands you. Sometimes it is about becoming the one person who refuses to abandon you. And when you finally belong to yourself, you become free to choose people, places, and experiences that complement who you are rather than define who you have to become.